Hello, Paprika here, back with another replay review. This time we have Denmar. So, Denmar, I recently joined one of the large Facebook groups for AOE4 because I'm trying to find all parts of the community. And one of the most recent posts on that Facebook group was Denmar saying that he wants help with his deli play. So I'm looking at one of his games today. He mostly plays team games. Now, before we jump in, I do want to say directly to you, Denmar, is that team games can be a little bit of a struggle, especially if you play with random teammates. That's because in team games, you rely so much on your team, and you are often playing against people who questionably are near your rank. I think team game matchmaking can be a little wonky because they have to find matches for so many people. So you often see people of very different ranks together. So I think there are going to be some things that would really clear up if you played 1v1s. Now, if you enjoy this game just playing team games, just keep playing team games. But there are things you can work on that will also require to have good teammates and things like that. So um, don't be too hard on yourself, especially if you notice that you are struggling with teammates. But let's just focus on your gameplay and see what you could do better. Deli for team games means that you basically want to really focus in on one or two units that you're going to play within your comp. Now, you should always consider who your teammates are. So, for example, if you have an English teammate, you probably don't want to go archers because your English teammate will probably go longbows. So, my guess is that you're probably going to be the Ghazi person. And then if the game goes late, like late castle or imperial, you're going to want to heavily mass elephants. And hand cannoneers is kind of usually your go-to. I could also see you being the person who does men at arms, especially if you do Tower of Victory with that increased attack speed, and maybe even House of Learning with the increased damage for men at arms. So the possibilities are there for you, but a big thing of team games is trying to not make too many different units, trying to really streamline what you produce to match your team. And of course, getting the sacred sites is going to be really important for you. Let's see how you open up. So let's start first with the first 6 minutes here. As we're watching the opening, as always, I want to start by saying if you're interested in more support, if you're watching this replay review yourself, join my coaching Discord in the description below. That's a place you can ask questions, you can get community support, and of course you can find more help in your gameplay. Alright, good. Sheep grab. Yeah, you have to scout a little bit on team games because with so many opponents scouting, you kind of have to stay tighter to your base. That's a good amount of sheep. You have your upgrades going. I agree with your opening Vil split. The one little caveat I would do is keep rallying to food early on. So you went like the wood a little bit early. You're about to hit 200 gold. You want to try to hit 200 gold and 400 food at the same time. After you got the 3 on gold, I would have just kept rallying to food on the sheep, just to make sure you're getting into that feudal age timing as soon as possible. So it's just a small thing. Okay, so what you need to do now is drop off that sheep, and I need you to go check your opponent across from you, because often early team games is kind of everyone playing the person across from them. So you're coming down over here. Don't worry about scouting over here. Your teammates have already scouted that. I would have rather you dropped off your sheep and gone straight to your opponent's side. Like, you basically, as you are aging up, you want to head to your opponent and see what are they aging up with? What are they doing? How's their timing looking? What's their opening move? And if you'd gone there, you might have even got these 3 sheep in the corner. So after you kind of clear your side, drop off sheep, go check your opponent. Scouting in this game is by far one of the most important things you can do. Because we're Dome of the Faith, we're not going to do, we're not doing Tower of Victory. Generally, people do Dome of the Faith with Delhi if your goal is a really quick castle, because you're trying to make more, you're trying to make more scholars, so you can get on all the sacred sites at the same time, and then really rush up that castle time, and then you can produce so many scholars you can get your upgrades really fast. Tower of Victory is generally the Delhi meta play, and the reason Tower of Victory is so good is because the attack speed increase is so very good. Getting a mass of men-at-arms, or a mass of archers, or a mass of hand cannoneers, or a mass of crossbows with the attack speed bonus of the Tower of Victory is very, very good. Second agent was 7, and I don't really know why. Agent with 7 is really unnecessary because you aren't able to do anything. You want to agent with 4 because that's an efficient timing. After you start adding more villagers after 4, the improvements you get are less. So it's not really worth doing 7. Especially because if you think about it, once you hit age up, you won't have resources to do anything. You don't have wood to build production. And in fact, you're so low on food that you're missing out on making villagers, which will really hurt you. So I would age it with 4, and then you want to keep 4 on the berries, and then the rest of your villagers should go on wood. And you can keep 2 to 3 on gold, it's fine. The rest should go on wood. And your goal is that you're gathering wood so that when you hit feudal, you can immediately drop a production building, whether that be stable or archery range or barracks, whatever you want to do. Also, I don't know going for stone. If you're doing a 2 TC play, I'm not a big fan of that. Oh, you dropped a house right there. Why is the house outside of TC range? I say that because an opponent could come and raid this and destroy this house, and then you have to make another house that sucks. So I would just put the house under TC range. It should have been like right here. It was also kind of wasted walk time. Like your villager walked all the way down here and then back up here, which seems kind of like a waste, unnecessary. So you got your agent really fast for what, right? Like the only reason I could say it's potentially worth it is now you can get all your eco upgrades, and you can get sanctity faster. But I would rather be able to get units efficiently than that. Yeah. Going really heavy on gold. I'm not too sure about that. Are you castle rushing? So that's interesting because the strength of Delhi truly comes from its feudal age. With your efficient production, you can produce more units than basically any other civ in feudal age, in the fastest. Especially because your berries are so good as Delhi, you get so much extra food. So kind of the Delhi formula is you make a lot of units, you take map control, you push opponent back into their base, you keep going on berries, you keep making units, you grab sacred sites, and then you either decide to rush castle and then mass, like men-at-arms or something, or lancers, or you just go all in and win in feudal with ram push. To go fast castle takes away kind of what makes Delhi so good. I have seen some fast castle builds where you fast castle into barracks and then mass men-at-arms. Just do like a huge men-at-arms push or a huge lancer push. But that, to me, that ignores the strongest thing about Delhi, especially when you consider what you could be doing is like maxing Ghazis and raiding your opponent, raiding his gold, raiding his stone, raiding his berries, and just being really annoying as you grab sacred sites, and then using that sacred site gold to power you into castle, into a much stronger castle push. Just my thoughts on that. Because I think you rushing castle is part of the reason why you might be struggling. Okay, now your teammates are aging up. I'm not going to pay attention to your teammates too much. You need to pay attention to your teammates to see what they're doing. Well, already a big issue is you're not scouting your opponent. You have no idea what your opponent's doing. Is he going 2 TC? Is he rushing you? Is he... like, what is he doing? Also, keep the sheep close to the TC, so when your villagers are gathering sheep, it is not a very far walk. As much as possible, you want your villagers to be efficient and not having to walk too much. Second, you should get the horticulture first and then professional scouts, because the horticulture applies to berries. But your research will be going really quick. Knowing your research is going quick, dropping a blacksmith will also be great, because you are getting so many extra scholars. But you really needed to check your opponent already, because what if he was going super heavy into knights and you already have 3 knights here? You know what I mean? Like an efficient French player would already have knights crossing, and you would lose berries, you would lose wood, you would lose gold. And you'd be out of luck because you need a barracks. You don't have one yet. So scouting very early is important to know what if you need to react. Like, he's going 2 TC, so you're lucky on that point. But that could have been very bad. I'm going to emphasize again, please push your sheep against the TC. Okay, so a goal you should add here is Sanctity just finished. And what high-level Delhi players do is, when Sanctity is like 30 seconds away, they pop the scholars out and head to the sacred sites. So you should have a scholar in each sacred site already. And I once again, I time it by saying when I see 30 seconds left, I pop my scholars out and I run to the sacred sites. And I'm standing there, so when second Sanctity finishes, boom, I'm getting those. And so the opponent then has to react to that, and usually they're not fast enough, and you get some gold. 2, you should be making spears at least. Okay, that's a lot of spears. Don't even need that many. But part of the issue is you're not scouting your opponent. And so this is what I mean, right? Look at this aggressive TC your opponent's dropping. First, you didn't know he was going second TC because you never scouted his base. And both your opponents are doing very aggressive second TCs. He's making 3 TCs. And the reason they get away with this is you have no units. Now, imagine instead you had opened up You've gone wood during your age up, dropped the stable, and gone immediately into Ghazi Raiders. Your Ghazis would be here killing villagers and canceling out these TCs, because if you were scouting from the start, you would have scouted the stone. You would have seen both opponents have gone a lot of stone, and your Ghazi Raiders would be here just preventing these TCs, and that means he would have to drop the TCs very safe without protecting resources, and then he would run out of food eventually. And you didn't do that. Instead, since you didn't scout and you're not aggressive, both opponents are doing triple TC. Is the orange player doing triple TC? He's at least going to do one. But you have opponents here who are each dropping 2 extra TCs, which is an immense amount of eco. Ghazi Raiders could have stopped that if you had set up your opening different. If you want to see an example, watch. I mean, I have videos where I play Delhi on my YouTube. Watch my opening. It's much faster to get out Ghazi Raiders, which would be better for you. Right now, you're letting your opponents do whatever they want, and they're being super, super greedy. You're not punishing that at all. And you saw, like, that's not good. And you still have not scouted your opponent at all. You don't know what he's doing. That's just really scary. I'm saying this is bothering me. Please push your sheep against the TC. And now yes, you have spears here, but you just have so many villagers out here just in no man's land. Also, if you're castle rushing, your macro is a little off. So think about if you want to rush castle, you need way more food than gold. You need 600 gold, but 1200 food. And during that time, you're making villagers as you're doing that. So if you're truly rushing castle, 1, you shouldn't have 10 on wood. You should have like 5 on wood, maybe 3 or 2 on wood. Because all you need is, once you get the barracks down, all you need is more, all you need is like houses, and maybe you want to get a blacksmith too. 8 on gold when you're not making gold units is a lot of gold. And also, you're not spending any gold on upgrades. The only thing you're spending gold on is scholars at 80 a pop. So really, you only need like 2 or 3 on gold. 10 on food, you're barely covering everything you want to do. You're making spears, you're making villagers. You should really have a split that's like 18 to 20 on food, 3 to 4 on wood, and 3 on gold. How do I know that? Well, I'm looking at your resources, and I notice what you have a lot of. You're already getting a lot of wood. And what you're not have a lot, and you have a lot of gold, and you don't have enough food. I asked myself, what am I trying to do? Well, it seems like I'm trying to rush castle, because you're not really doing much outside of building towers and things like that. So I should be heavier on food. That's the key thing you want to see here. You want to adjust your villagers based on your goal. If your goal is fast castle, then you should have more on food to get the 1200 food needed to fast castle. You have 6 scholars right now. You don't really need more than that until you age up so that you can get upgrades. Make sure you get upgrades in both blacksmiths. And I would not put all your villagers on the same food source. Like, I'd put half on these berries and half on sheep. Or half on these deer. Like, spread them. Because what you don't want is an opponent to attack and now you have no food. That's the worst. So you want to split your food villagers so you're not going all in on one food source, which would potentially really hurt you. Your English friend is pushing. But is facing some basic defense from... Oh, so they're harassing orange, but the problem is that red and blue are super booming. So unless they kill orange very quickly, it's not going to work. And you're not helping them at all. That's another thing. Like, you see your teammates pushing your opponent, but I don't see you helping them. If you're rushing castle to help them, then you should have been aging up already. Like, the goal should have been to age up at like 7 minutes or 8 minutes. This is a very slow, fast castle. And look, who was that? Your teammate. Okay, he aged up. Has he not started trade yet? He never dropped his silver tree. That's unfortunate. And now you're finding, like, you should have been getting these sacred sites at like the 6-minute mark. You have so many scholars. Why aren't you on both sacred sites? You know what I mean? You should be on all 3. F it. Like, you have so many scholars that you might as well just risk it. They don't have any units. Like, this is what's actually boggling my mind, is that neither red nor blue are making any units, and they're getting away with so much eco boom. While you guys aren't trading, you're not being aggressive, and your castle was super slow. So when you're asking, like, why am I not getting ahead, it's because you're not taking advantage of the timings. The timings is if your opponent goes multiple TCs, then you have a timing to rush castle and attack him. He's aging up right now, and he went 3 TCs. So that tells me that you were just way too slow. Like, you should have men-at-arms or knights running in here and attacking villagers and pushing off resources before they can age up. But you took so long. You have so much extra wood, you have so much extra gold, that it's allowing your opponents to kind of do whatever they want. And that's the thing, like, and that's no shade. That's what we need to learn about this game. The big part of AOE4 is trying to do the thing that counters what your opponent's trying to do. So your opponent's trying to be greedy, you either also need to be greedy, or you need to rush castle for better tech, or you need to be aggressive right then. You need to do something to counter that. Because if you don't counter greed, greed will win. Like, if you don't do something in direct response to someone being super greedy economically, you will lose, because they will just get more eco than you and win. Now you're trying to stonewall, which is pretty dangerous. I would stonewall if more villagers take so long, you don't want the stonewalls to fail. When you do House of Wisdom like this, House of Learning, you should do Hone Blades first, and I should see a huge men-at-arms mass and knights. Like, I should just see knights and men-at-arms coming like crazy. Instead you're in crossbows. I'm confused by that. Also, here's the thing, you have so much wood, drop more blacksmiths. Get 4 blacksmiths, who cares? Also, you should be grabbing relics. Here's another huge thing for Delhi. As you're aging up, you should have popped all of your scholars out, and you should put a scholar at each, on each one of these relics. So the relics are so much gold for you. And then the second you hit castle, you just grab each relic and bring it back, and now you have so much gold that allows you to go more heavily on food. Sorry, I had to check that message. But you're kind of missing some key things that Delhi players really prey off of. Getting sacred sites as soon as possible for the gold. Getting relics the second you age up with all your scholars. Using the efficient production to immediately create a really powerful castle army. Like, why are we going spears? Like, I see a huge disconnect between what is good about Delhi and you're not following through on that. So when you think about why you struggle, we're not leaning into our Civ's strengths. And our Civ's strengths is special upgrades. You have a special upgrade, Hone Blades, that gives you extra damage to your men-at-arms and lancers. You have efficient production, which allows you to produce out of these production buildings much faster. So think about this: if you had hit castle and immediately started producing men-at-arms out of 3 barracks with scholars in them, you overwhelm him. You have so many men-at-arms in his base they can't stop it. I mean, they rushed Imp because you put 0 pressure on. That's the big thing that's holding you back right now, is that you're not using Delhi's strengths. And please, I'm just saying, look at this walking distance. You're losing so many resources from your villagers having to take time walking back and forth. Since you didn't wall with multiple villagers, now he's just running in. Look at the relics, man. See, you're doing it one at a time. You should have just sent a scholar to each relic across the map. And now I'm noticing, so like, look how many resources you're having, we're not spending them. You have 2,000 gold. Drop a market. You have a bunch of stone, drop a keep so you can get the TCs, or just drop another TC. You have so much wood, drop more production. You have so much food, make more units, or just rush imp yourself, because you have so many scholars, you could get the upgrades real fast. So drop like another mosque, and you know what I mean? Like, we're not using our resources. A big part of the game is using your resources, making units, doing something with it. Instead, you're just holding on to these resources. And now he has imp units. So your Mongol player is imp, which is good, but he is not trading still, which is really hurting his eco. Your English player is still in feudal. Don't know about that. But really, you could have really affected this game by just swarming. We're in Palace of the Sultan. Once again, I think the better landmark is the other one. I forget its name off the top of my head, but it produces food based on how many techs you have. So once again, it's synergy of your decisions. I have a lot of scholars because of my Dome of the Faith, so I can research techs very quickly. So I'm going to do the landmark that gives me food for all the techs I've researched. So I research all my techs really quickly. I now have a lot of food. I've grabbed all the relics, so now I have free food, free gold, and now I'm just producing men-at-arms at such a rate, or hand cannoneers at such a rate that my opponents can't beat me. You see how that synergizes? That's asking yourself, like, what's my Civ good at? What do I do to make my Civ more successful? How can I lean into those strengths? Instead, you're being pushed by an imp army because you let him go 3 TC with no pressure. And all these things build on each other. Your lack of scouting, the slowness of your fast castle, which is like, if you're in a fast castle, make it quick. Yeah, at this point, stop running units out. Like, rally to here. So wait till you have enough units to fight him. You see, he's pure crossbow. Go Ghazis. or go Tower Elephants, which counter both those things. Gazis and Tower Elephants counter both those things. But you might be asking, like, man, his army's so strong. Why? It's because you never scouted. Like, it's all downstream effects. Since you didn't scout and you didn't see the multiple TCs, you didn't open up aggressive, or you didn't truly rush castles. You didn't do those things. You could put enough pressure, so then they got enough resources to go imp, and now they're beating you. Like, it's that simple often enough. And now it's going to be GG. I'm not going to continue watching the game, because at this point it's pretty obvious what happens. I'm guessing your teammates kind of hold out for a long time, but that's kind of the game. So I hope that was helpful to you. Overall, big thing is refine your strategy. What are you trying to do? Really manage your villagers to that strategy. Two, just get rid of the background music. Manage your villagers to the strategy you're trying to do. Two, scout your opponent at all times. See what they're opening with. Know what they're trying to do. Three, continuously check your resources. Ask what I need and change your villagers to get those things. And I'm telling you, man, just be aggressive. Delhi is supposed to be played as an uber aggressive civ that takes space, takes resources, and puts pressure on your opponent. And I'm not seeing that. A big thing you can do is go to AOE4World.com. I'm going to say it again, AOE4World.com. Go to the watch tab and watch high-level players play Delhi. And watch how they play it, because it will open your eyes to how Delhi can really be played. And with that, good luck on your games.